We are live. We are live. Hopefully we are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Pflugar. Aftermath. The aftermath of Week 11. A lot of things went down in college football. We're going to be talking about it again, once again. I start with a monologue. I talk a few minutes. Then I get to your question and comments. But you are the people who direct this show. Our live shows are directed by you. Whoever... I just got a comment from West Virginia guy. Fire Neal Brown. Even after West Virginia defeated. They won. They beat Oklahoma for the first time in Big 12 conference play. And West Virginia guy says, fire Neal Brown. Well, we're kicking it off with a lot of steam tonight here at Peek Around the Corner. Again, I start with my monologue. I discuss things that I think are important in the college football world landscape here in College Week 11. And again, you direct the show. From then on, any questions, comments, just like West Virginia guy says, fire Neal Brown. We go right to your question and comments. Please smash that like button if you like the content. Share the video with your family and friends. And please subscribe to our ever-growing channel. Thank you so very much. And we're going to start out, well, the AP poll came out, right? AP poll came out. And I think it's going to mirror what we see tomorrow night when the college football ranking selection comes out. The playoff committee comes out. At least for the top 10. Georgia's number 1, right, in the AP poll. I think that's what we're going to see Tuesday night. Georgia, number 1. Ohio State, number 2. Michigan, number 3. TCU, number 4. Tennessee, number 5. I don't see... That's what the AP poll was today, and I think that's what we're going to see Tuesday night in the playoff selection committee rankings. Number 6, LSU. Number 7, USC. I do believe they're going to have LSU jump USC. Alabama, number 8. Clemson, number 9. Utah, number 10. That all looks good to me. Put down your comments down in the comment section. What do you think is going to be the rankings for the top 5, 6, 7 schools for Tuesday night's rankings? In the AP poll, they had Penn State 11, Oregon 12, North Carolina 13. I got a feeling that the North Carolina might be ranked a little higher than that, than 13. I think they might move them to number 11. We shall see what happens Tuesday night. Drake May, the quarterback, North Carolina Tar Heels. I read some article about him just today. When he comes out, now he has to play another year of college football. He's not eligible to go into the NFL draft this spring. But when he comes out, he'll probably be the number 1 pick in the 2024 NFL draft. That guy is something else. And North Carolina and Clemson have already qualified. Both of them. They've won their division. And they're going to be playing in the ACC championship game. So we already have one all ready to go. And we've got 4 other Power 5 conference championship games. We haven't figured out who's going to be playing yet. And of course the G5 schools. But North Carolina, Clemson. And I'm going to be taking North Carolina in that game. You all know how I feel about Clemson's quarterbacks. Don't think Clemson's going to win the ACC this year, but we shall see. But West Virginia guy shoots off a comment here. Fire Neal Brown. I don't think Neal Brown's going to survive this season. But that was a big win for West Virginia to finally beat Oklahoma in a Big 12 conference championship game. That was a fun game to watch. My beloved Golden Gophers. I don't talk much about them here on the National College Football Show, but come on, guys. Come on, gals. They're back in it. They're back in the Big Ten West race. A wild race it is. 4 teams tied with 4-3 records. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. The Gophers have won 3 in a row, but they need help. The Gophers need a beat Iowa this Saturday. And the following Saturday, they need to beat Wisconsin, our two biggest rivals. And we need Purdue Boilermakers to lose one of the last two games, either against Northwestern or in the old bucket game against Indiana at the end of the season. Purdue needs to lose one of those games for the Gophers to slide in to win the Big Ten West Championship. And the Gophers need Illinois to lose to Michigan next week, which I think they will. Illinois loses again to Purdue. They were a 7-point favorite at home, Illinois was. They lost Chase Brown at the end of that game. That was heartbreaking. I think he hurt his ankle. I'm not sure. I haven't heard any official reports. But Chase Brown, a brilliant running back, goes down. UCLA loses. They lose to Arizona. They missed their opportunity. Come on, Bruins. What happened? Bad quarterback play. Arizona's making plays up and down the field. Wow, big upset. Arizona defeats UCLA, and that's a huge loss to UCLA because Oregon lost earlier in the game. That was a great game. Washington 37, Oregon 34. Now, I have to say this about Bo Nix. There was a lot of people wrong about Bo Nix going into this season, transferring from Auburn to Oregon. But there was nobody more wrong than your humble host, Greg Pflugar. I didn't think Bo Nix could play at this level. He has been outstanding. So I got to tip my hat. I was wrong. I know I'm a big fan of Kenny Dillinger as Dillingham, as all the Oregon fans know who watch this show. Dillingham is a great young offensive mind. But I didn't think, and he worked with Bo Nix at Auburn before they both went up. Before they both went up and went to Oregon. But I didn't think Bo Nix was going to have this type of season. Holy cow. But Michael Penix, the transfer from Indiana, leads Washington to a late victory. That was an epic, classic game. That was fantastic. Now, it seems to be that we're on track, right? We're on track for Georgia to be one of the top 4 teams. The winner of Ohio State-Michigan game, and one of those two teams are going to be a heavy favorite to win the Big Ten championship game. So whoever wins that Ohio State-Michigan game in 2 weeks, they'll be one of the 4 teams in the playoffs. Do we really see TCU losing? I don't. They play at Baylor next week. I don't see them losing that game. They just beat Texas. TCU is winning games in all sorts of different ways, and that's what you have to do. Max Duggan, Quentin Johnston, I didn't think he was going to play yesterday. The big-time receiver. He's going to be a big-time NFL receiver. He's making plays out there. TCU wins. I think they go undefeated. They're going to be one of the other 4. They're going to be one of the 4 schools. So you got Georgia, the winner of Ohio State, Michigan, and then you got TCU. So there's one spot left. Who's going to take that spot? A 1-loss Michigan team? A 1-loss Ohio State team? A 1-loss Tennessee team that doesn't make the SEC championship game? Or could it be a 1-loss USC team who wins the Pac-12 championship? I am not sure USC has the defense to win the Pac-12 championship. I don't think they can get through UCLA and Oregon, probably in the Pac-12. I don't think they can do it. But if they do, would they get the 4th nod? And of course, you have LSU sitting there with 2 losses, but with some big wins. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about who you believe is going to be one of the 4 teams in the college football playoffs. Another thing I want to say before we get to any questions or comments, we know that the SEC is the best football conference in the country. We all understand that. The most powerful football conference in the country. The best ratings in the country. But come on, what is going on? Why coming up here in week 12, why is Alabama playing Austin Peay? Why is Texas A&M playing UMass? Come on, guys. SEC, you got to change this up. We know that you have schedules that are very tough, competitive, even with only 8 conference games versus the 9 conference games the Big Ten has. But you can't be playing Austin Peay in week 12 of the season, or UMass. Those games have to be played early in the season. I think it's, again, I'm biased, right? Here I live in the North, Big Ten country. But that's embarrassing. You can't be playing Austin Peay, Alabama. You can't be playing Austin Peay a week before you play the Iron Bowl against Auburn. That's not how you finish the season. That's just my soapbox. I'm just on my soapbox. I just can't believe that. 2 days ago, I put a poll out on Flug Empire. At Flug Empire, you see it on the ticker below the screen. And I put out a poll that said, I wanted people to vote on what do you think is going to happen in the middle of this week. November 15th, that's Wednesday, through November 17th, that's a Friday. November 15th to 17th. The University of California Board of Regents are meeting. And it sounds like there's part of that agenda is an action agenda, action notes, where they're going to take some action on UCLA. Either they're going to decide to do nothing to UCLA in UCLA's attempt to go to the Big Ten in 2024. They're either going to do nothing or penalize UCLA, take money from UCLA and give it to University of California, Berkeley as some sort of penalty for going to the Big Ten, or they're going to block UCLA entirely. So I put that poll out there, and I think the final numbers is almost 800 votes we got on that poll on Flag Empire. Almost 800 votes. And 10% was people voted that they thought the University of California Board of Regents was going to block UCLA's move to the Big Ten. Another 29%, 30% thought that the Board of Regents was going to tax UCLA's. Every single year they're going to tax them. We call it a toll tax here at Peek Around the Corner. 50%, just over 50%, thought the University of California Board of Regents wasn't going to do anything at all. And then another 10% was you thought the University of California Board of Regents was going to kick the decision down the road. So those were the sort of numbers I was expecting. 50%, just a little bit over 50%, thought University of California Board of Regents are not going to do anything at all to UCLA. So the majority, just over the majority of the people who voted in a poll thought that University of California Board of Regents was just going to let UCLA go to the Big Ten with nothing. If I had to vote on that poll, and I did not vote on that poll, I would pick that the University of California Board of Regents is going to penalize UCLA's move to the Big Ten. They're going to take money away from UCLA yearly and give it to the University of California Board of Regents. Or they were going to give it to the University of Berkeley, California. That's what I think is going to happen. Of course, we have no intel. Nobody has any intel on this. Unless somebody in that Board of Regents comes out and says, this is what we're going to do before the meeting even starts. And it sounds like a decision can be made without even the full board being present. And definitely without the full board even voting on the subject. So we're going to follow this story. It's going to happen. I think a decision, I don't think the can's going to be kicked down the road. I think the University of California Board of Regents needs to make a decision this week because everybody's waiting. Like the Pac-12, George Kliavkoff is trying to strike a media deal. He's in media negotiations. Jason Scheer of Arizona 247, put out on Twitter that he had heard from his sources that George Kliavkoff was ready to present a deal to the Pac-12 university presidents, that they got some sort of package deal from the media companies. I don't know which one they are. A lot of speculation that it's going to be a combination of ESPN and Amazon, but we don't know. But, none of this can really happen until everyone knows where UCLA is going to end up. Like, what is going to happen here this week? And then there's a lot of people who say, Greg, if the University of California Board of Regents blocks UCLA, Big Ten's going to go to court, and there's going to be this whole mess. So we're going to have to find out, but we are going to be here at Peek Around the Corner following this story every single day. At the end of the week, we should have an answer because so many people want to know. They want that final decision to be made. Oregon and Washington want to know. Of course, UCLA wants to know. Big Ten wants to know. The media companies that are dealing with the Pac-12 during these media negotiations, they want to know. Big games for next week. Medea Flugart, my wife, the moderator, says thank you for your support to the channel. Your contributions mean a lot. Thank you so very much for all the contributions you have given us for the first 3 months of our channel. I appreciate it. So the game's heading into week number 12. Illinois at Michigan. Michigan trying to remain undefeated. They got the Illinois game at home. Then they got to go to Ohio State. Illinois just blew their chance to take control of the Big Ten West. They lost to Purdue. They lost to Michigan State and then Purdue. At home. At home. Chase Brown is injured. I do not think Illinois is going to give the Wolverines that much of a fight. Once Illinois loses to Michigan on this Saturday, Illinois' chance of the Big Ten West title completely goes away. They had a great year, outstanding year, but it just didn't seem like they could handle prosperity. That happens a lot. That's happened to my Gophers, who have become so close to winning the Big Ten West, but they can't quite get there. So Illinois, Michigan, TCU at Baylor. I don't know. Baylor's not playing good. TCU, man, they're finding all sorts of different ways. All sorts of different ways to win these games. An incredible defensive effort against Texas. TCU at Baylor. I don't think Baylor's going to give Texas much of a fight. I don't think Baylor's going to give TCU much of a fight. I had Baylor winning the Big 12 championship at the start of the season. I thought they were going to repeat because Blake Shapen, Aranda, the great coach, I thought they were going to do it, but they're not playing good. They lost last week, Kansas State. So I think TCU is going to mop up on Baylor. I really do. And one quick thing, and we'll get to your comments. Nice to see you, BC. Nice to see you, Bob Dolan, in the house. Appreciate it. I'll get to your comment in a second, Bob. That's a great question. I'll get to your question in a second. What about Quinn Ewers, the quarterback at Texas? Is he going to be okay? He had a rough game against TCU. But people have been making comments about his footwork. I saw Joe Klatt make a comment all during the game. I was like, what is going on? He throws the ball sometimes with his back foot off the ground. And sometimes his front foot is not on the ground. It's like he doesn't like to make a throw with both of his feet on the ground. He's got some footwork issues. He's very inaccurate. Going into this game, he was 55% completion percentage. Took a drop after yesterday. I know it's his first full season, I get it. He needs room to develop. But they got a guy named Arch Manning coming in next year. Right? So Sarkisian, I think there's going to be some big drama once again in Texas about their starting quarterback. But I think there's something wrong with Quinn Ewers. I think he's got to go to the drawing board, back to the drawing board. There's something wrong with his footwork. So, Northwestern, Purdue. I need Northwestern to upset the Purdue Boilermakers. Let's go. Let's go. We need it. We need it. They're 20. Northwestern's a 20-point underdog. Hold on one second here. Purdue's a 20-point favorite. And if they win that game, if Purdue Boilermakers beat Northwestern this Saturday, 11 o'clock, FS1, or 12 o'clock, noon Eastern time, FS1. If Purdue wins that game and then defeats Indiana in their big rivalry game, the old bucket, then my Gophers do not go to the Big Ten championship game against the Buckeyes or the Wolverines. So I need Northwestern to pull off the big upset. But here's the problem. All the Northwestern quarterbacks got injured against my beloved Gophers yesterday. Sullivan got hurt. All their quarterbacks got hurt. So I need a miracle to happen. I need Purdue to lose to Northwestern this Saturday or lose at Indiana, which could happen. USC, UCLA play, big game. It would have been a much bigger game if UCLA could have beaten Arizona late last night or early this morning. But USC, UCLA, that's always a big rivalry game. Utah versus Oregon. Oregon missed the shot, but that should be a big game. All right, let's get to some of the comments. Bob Dolan, nice to see you again. Sir, what's a bigger win for Minnesota? Beating Iowa next week or the inevitable contract extension Brian France will get if Iowa wins the Big Ten West? Look, the Gophers, Iowa, they play for the Florida Rosedale, the Big Pig. Gophers have not beaten Iowa, have not got that pig since 2014. It kills us. It absolutely kills us. In 2019, when the Gophers went 11-2 that year, if they would have beaten Iowa Hawkeyes, they would have won the Big Ten West. And they lost to the Hawkeyes. And they dominated that game. They pushed Iowa all over the field. In fact, last year they did the same thing. There's something, the Iowa Hawkeyes are in the heads of all the Big Ten West teams. I mean, if Minnesota can just play this Saturday, and by the way, that game is at 4 o'clock Eastern time. 4 o'clock Eastern time on Fox. We're going to be doing a watch party at Peek Around the Corner. Hawkeyes, Gophers. So please come, put comments in real time, watch our reactions. It's going to be a fun time. It's going to be full of drama. But if the Gophers can play that game against Iowa and not give up a pick six, not give up a scoop and score, not give up a special teams touchdown, if they can just play the Iowa Hawkeyes evenly in the turnover department, we can win the game. We can win. Come on, Iowa Hawkeyes offense is dreadful. This is the worst offensive line Hawkeyes have had in years. Gophers have got a good defense. I think they're probably going to be top 5 after yesterday's game in the country. They were the number 3 top-ranked defense last year. Our quarterback situation, Tanner Morgan, we don't know if he's coming back next week. Athan Clackamanus, the Greek rifle, redshirt freshman, He's a wild stallion, man. He can make plays at a very high level, and he can make plays at a very low level. He's a young kid. He has a difficult time processing the field that's in front of him. But the Gophers have got to win this game. They've got to do it. Now I'm all psyched up because Bob Nolan brought me there. We've got to win this game. There's no reason the Gophers can't beat Iowa and then go to Wisconsin and beat Wisconsin. The Iowa game, though, is going to be tougher of the two, even though it's at home, because the Iowa Hawkeyes are in the Gophers' head. The Badgers, not so much. The Badgers, we all know they're having problems this year. Graham Mertz has not developed. Gophers have defeated Wisconsin 2 of the last 4 years. So, but it's the Hawkeyes. It's the Iowa Hawkeyes that are just in our heads. Oh, here we go. BC. Again, nice to see you in the house. I thought Baylor would have a great O-line and a young quarterback was ready. Lost in the Bigger 12 stories. They have disappointed. Yes, they have. The Baylor Bears have been the disappointing team. What happened? I hope that wasn't something to do with Dave Aranda, agent, taking phone calls from Nebraska and other places to try to become the head football coach. I don't think so. He's a professional. But, man, I love Blake Shapen. But, again, he didn't play much. When he excelled last year, it's not like he had a whole bunch of playing time. And maybe he still has lots to learn. That is one of the big disappointments of the season. You are correct. BC, Jamie Chadwell to West Virginia would seem like a fit. Does Neil Brown's background from G5 make it a tougher call? That's a great question. A great comment, great question. Because these athletic directors, of course, I was about to say, these athletic directors, if they have a failed coach, the next coach is usually the opposite, right? They do the opposite when it comes to resume as the previous coach, as to personality, strengths and weaknesses. The problem with who is going to replace Neil Brown at West Virginia gets back to who's probably going to replace Shane Lyons, the West Virginia athletic director. That's the problem with who's, to come out with a hot board for West Virginia. We don't even know who the athletic director is going to be because there was a report from Pete Thamel. And you guys know how much I love Pete Thamel. I respect him. He knows his stuff, especially, I'm going to make this clear, and I've done this before on the show, especially when it comes to coaching carousel. Pete Thamel has the Rolodex, or not the Rolodex anymore, but the iPhone. He's got all the numbers to all the agents, right? So when he says something, you take it as gospel, especially when it comes to coaching searches, coaching firings, coaches hot boards. And he said a report yesterday morning on College Game Day. He said something, I'm paraphrasing, if Neil Brown should get fired at the end of the season, there's a high likely chance that Shane Lyons will not be around to make the replacement. So, if West Virginia is losing their athletic director, it's very hard to say who would they. It's just harder to have a hot board. You would think the new athletic director of West Virginia would make the call. Now, Jamie Chadwell, I think, would be an excellent pick for West Virginia. I think he's going to move on, right? He's losing his quarterback. If he's ever going to jump from Coastal Carolina, now is the time. It's all about timing with these coaches. This is the time to jump. So if he's going to jump from a G5 job to a Power 5 job. What other Power 5 jobs are out there that, would have Jamey Chadwell as one of the top targets? I don't think Auburn would. Now, there's going to be there's going to be more job openings, right? We all know this after the season's over. But, Jamey Chadwell, he's not going to be a Nebraska target. He's not going to be, I don't think he's going to be an Auburn target. He's not going to be a Wisconsin target. He's not going to be an Arizona State target. But West Virginia, I think if they called him, whoever calls him, probably won't be Shane Lyons. I think he'd be very interested in that job. And, you got to give the guy credit. He built that Coastal Carolina program. And Jamey Chadwell did something that Neil Brown didn't do. And Neil Brown was at Troy. Jamey Chadwell is currently at Coastal Carolina. Jamey Chadwell recognized a great quarterback, got him, developed him, and he's been a star at Coastal Carolina. Neil Brown has not been able to do the same thing at West Virginia. And that's where Neil Brown lost traction in the quarterback room, right? He's got Garrett Green playing now. He got JT Daniels in the transfer portal. They got that Nico Marshall. I probably mispronounced his last name. A high school kid. He's got some promise out of the state of Arizona, I believe. But he hasn't played this year. But he hasn't hit on that quarterback. Jamey Chadwell has. So if West Virginia is looking at a guy that with a resume that looks like he can spot good high school quarterback talent and develop them, Jamey Chadwell probably is a good, very good pick for West Virginia. But again, here at Peek Around the Corner, we love our hot boards, but we're not going to create one yet until Neil Brown is fired. I think he will be fired eventually this season, at the end of the year. Bob Dolan, Iowa's in everybody's head, even Iowa fans. Yeah, you can see Iowa fans, they've had this great... Bob, I can't wait till you get... I'm going to get to your comment about the Vikings game today. You said this is the best regular season Viking game ever. It's the second greatest game. I'm going to get to the greatest game here in a little bit. I'm an old guy, and I remember the Vikings versus the Cleveland Browns in 1980. I will get to that in a second. Iowa fans have been outstanding on Twitter this year. They just, because they know their offense is just dreadful. But they also know they're going to end up winning the game, that they were going to come back and win all these games. It's unbelievable what France does there at Wisconsin. At Iowa. Iowa might win the Big Ten West. Do you know how crazy that is? They lost to Iowa State this year. They can't move the ball. The quarterback, he threw 63 yards in the air. And they beat the Gophers like they always beat the Gophers, my beloved Gophers, and they go on to beat Nebraska. Is Nebraska going to beat Iowa? I mean, come on, honestly. That's not going to happen. So Iowa's this close to winning the Big Ten West. And they're having a lot of fun. The Iowa Hawkeye fans having a lot of fun. But I tell you what, it's going to be an incredible environment at Huntington Bank Stadium. Who hates Iowa? We hate Iowa. That chant will be going booming through that stadium. It's going to be filled up. Hawkeyes, Gophers, 4 o'clock Eastern time. The temperature is going to be, could be below 20 degrees. Matt Higgins, Texas A&M max exodus to the transfer portal. You would think so. It has to happen. The transfer portal is going to be crazy, and we're going to be following it here at Peek Around the Corner. Any big news on the transfer portal, make sure you check us out. Again, that's why it's so important for you to subscribe to our channel, because you'll get notified of our emergency episodes, of our daily episodes, of our live shows. So please subscribe to our channel. Please share the video with your family and friends. Smash that like button if you want to contribute to our channel to help us keep the lights on here at this ever-growing channel. You can hit that super chat, that dollar sign, give us a contribution, and we'll immediately go to your comment. We'll do a deep dive on it, even if you rip on your humble host. Now, question. This is a college football station, college football YouTube channel. But that Vikings game and Buffalo Bills was crazy. Bob Dolan asked the question, best regular season Vikings game ever today? No, not for me. Not for me. I was 12 years old. I think it was 1980. It might have been 1981. 1980, Vikings against the Cleveland Browns. The Vikings are down. Tommy Kramer, 2-minute Tommy Kramer, has got the ball. If the Vikings win the game, they win the NFC Central Division. If they lose, they don't go to the playoffs. And if they win, I think they finish like 8-7-1 or something, and they go to the playoffs. There's only like 20 seconds left. Tommy Kramer goes back to, I think Vikings got the ball at their 20, 25-yard line. It's outdoor stadium at Bloomington, Minnesota. It's freezing cold. It's at the end of the season. The grass is torn up. No one can barely move. And I think the score is like 23 to 21, 23 to 20. I might be wrong on that. Vikings basically have 2 plays left. Tommy Kramer throws the ball. I can't remember who caught the ball. A wide receiver, middle of the field, about a 10-yard pass. It was a catches the ball and he laterals it to Teddy Brown, who's coming around. Teddy Brown gets the ball and runs it to the 50-yard line, gets out of bounds. So it was a hook and ladder, whatever you want to call it. Button hook, lateral. It was a great play, 50-yard line. Last play of the game, Tommy Kramer goes Hail Mary. Ahmad Rashad catches the ball in the end zone. Touchdown. Vikings, they go to the playoffs. I jump into my father's arms. I still remember that day downstairs in our little house. That was my best regular season game because it brings up memories of a young. But that game was absolutely nuts. If you haven't watched the Vikings-Bills game, don't know anything about it, go check it out. Justin Jefferson, probably the greatest catch of all time. It was like the OBJ catch, but yet in traffic. It was a 4th down play. Unbelievable catch. There's like 20 things in that game. It would take me the rest of the show just to get through it. Yeah, great game. Sean, nice to see you in the house again, sir. I appreciate you. Chadwell would be a good fit at Georgia Tech. You know what? That's I did not think of that. That's another good slot that Jamey Chadwell could be looking at. And of course, that is the job that is open. That's the job that's open. West Virginia's job's not open yet. Which kind of terrifies me for Mountaineer fans, actually. Because it's an advantage for... I know it's tough when you fire a coach midway through the season or early in the season, like Trev Alberts did at Nebraska when he fired Scott Frost. But there is an advantage to it. You get out in front of other teams. You get to talk to coaches' agents before other athletic directors can do that. Yeah, Chadwell to Georgia Tech. That would be a good fit. That's very great comment, Sean. Excellent. Gary, nice to see you in the house again, sir. Appreciate you coming in. ESPN's parent company, Disney, not doing so well financially. Rumors of layoffs, hiring freezes, and cost-saving measures. Do you think that could affect the PAC media contract? Great question. Great question, Gary. I know that somebody asked, I believe it was Bob Thompson, the former Fox Sports president on Twitter. I believe so. something in regards with this type of question, or maybe it was Amazon. And he didn't think it would affect the media contracts. It could. It could. I don't know. Kliavkoff is still in a world of hurt. They've got to get this UCLA thing settled. They've got to know if UCLA, they've got to get that settled. That's the first domino. That's the first domino. Second thing is, after they know what's going on with UCLA, they've got to get a deal done soon. These Pac-12 schools, you better believe Oregon and Washington are very uneasy right now. They got to get this deal done. And then the third thing that has to happen, after the UCLA thing is figured out by the University of California Board of Regents, after the media deal is struck, the third thing that has to get figured out is the expanded playoffs revenue distribution. It's still unresolved. For there to be the expanded playoffs in 2024 or in 2025, there has to be a consensus around the distribution of this huge revenue. How much of the pie, that revenue pie, is going to go to Power 5? How much of it's going to go to G5 conferences? And then among the Power 5, how is it going to be sliced up? And then among the G5, how it's going to be sliced up? Is it going to be more performance-based? Is it going to be more how many teams you have or in your conference? A lot of different variables. But man, that has to get decided soon for there to be a playoffs in 2024 or a playoffs that start in 2025. Because if it doesn't, because it has to be consensus, then we're looking at 2026. And that's when I think it gets even a little bit more scarier. And people aren't really paying attention to this. 2026, you don't need a consensus. It's majority rule. And it's majority rule on who's able to vote. Who knows what SEC Big Ten will do in 2026 with all the marbles that they own. I mean, you know, but I don't even want to go down that road right now. Let's just hope that a deal gets done, a consensus. Everybody has to agree with it. The 10 FBS conferences and Notre Dame within this period of time. They have the conference expanded playoffs start before 2026. To change it up from its current contract, you need everyone's vote, a consensus. I hope they figure it out, but if they don't, things are going to get a little scary. But I don't want to dominate this live show with that issue. But more and more people are going to better start covering this story. That's all I got to say. BC, Ewers, no touch on deep stuff. Lets it rip. I don't know. You know, he's got a nice quick release. To the point, BC, to the point where he sometimes gets rid of the ball so quick he doesn't have his feet under him. Right? It's like he's got some issues. He's got a great arm. He really does. I mean, for him to be able to throw the ball like that when his footwork isn't how it should be, he's got arm talent. But it takes more than arm talent to be a successful college football quarterback. It takes more than arm talent. I can tell you as a Gopher fan, we've got this Athan Clackamanus, the Greek rifle, and he's like a wild stallion out there. He's like a wild stallion. He's got skill level, physical skill level, that's way higher than Tanner Morgan or any other Gopher quarterback we've had in a long time. But his footwork, his processing the field, it just isn't there yet. It might get there. Right? This is his first games as a college football quarterback. You got to see if he develops. For the people who are down on Quinn Ewers, like myself right now, like many Texas Longhorn fans, if you read the message boards, Go to Texas 247. They're extremely down on him. They know Manning's coming into the fold. Arch Manning's the number one high school quarterback in the nation. He's coming into the fold next year. So they're very down to Quinn Ewers. But I would have to just remind everybody, I'll give you a name, Bo Nix, right? Took Bo Nix a while to develop, and man, has he developed for the Oregon Ducks in his last year as a college football quarterback. Mo Envision, nice to see you again, sir. Appreciate you coming into the house at College Football's Peak Around the Corner. Ewers needed more time under Ryan Day. Yes, he did, but he wasn't going to play this year either for the Buckeyes, right? It's C.J. Stroud's team. And they've got some other guys coming up, so he might never, ever played for the Buckeyes. You're right, though. In a vacuum, he needed more time with Ryan Day. I'm wondering, what's going to happen next year? Manning's going to come on the campus. What's going to happen to Quinn Ewers? Is he going to transfer again? He's going to stick it out? He's got a lot of development left to do. He really is. He's not there yet for Texas. He's not there yet for Texas. Going back up here, missed a comment from Bob Dolan, except for Michigan and Ohio State. He's talking about how Iowa Hawkeyes are at everybody's heads in the Big Ten, except for Michigan and Ohio State. And as we know, Iowa Hawkeyes defeated the Buckeyes a few years ago in a big upset, blew them out of the water. So the Hawkeyes can even get in the Buckeyes' heads. Michigan, Ohio State, what are we? 13 days away from the game. Who do you got winning that game? Who do you got winning? Michigan or the Michigan Wolverines or the Ohio State Buckeyes? I've been leaning Buckeyes throughout this whole season. But I'm starting to edge towards Michigan. I know they're going to get some Buckeye fans upset with me, especially on Twitter. But I think Michigan might have the edge. I saw a line. I think the Buckeyes are like 14-point favorites. That cannot be true. Some future line out there. But we'll see. But Corum, the running back from Michigan, the Buckeyes have had their Buckeyes' top running backs have been nicked up. Williams and Henderson. Michigan's defense is still good. They don't have the highlight players. They don't have those NFL number one draft picks. They don't have those defensive ends like they do last year, but they're good. They're good. Now, J.J. McCarthy, his statistics over the last 3 weeks pretty much matches Peach's statistics from Iowa. If you take a look at the last 3 games, J.J. McCarthy is struggling, especially downfield. He had a tough weather game last week. Yesterday. But I think he went 9 of 18, 7 of 16, something like that. 8 of 19. He struggled. However, this is what you get in Big Ten football play at the end of the year. You have to be able to produce to be effective in bad weather play. J.J. McCarthy, man, he's starting to struggle. He's starting to slide. Mo Envision, Ohio State by 13 in the shoe. Michigan's offense is too one-dimensional. I was just making a comment on that. McCarthy's play has been ineffective lately. He's a threat to take the ball. He's a threat to run. He's a great athlete. But I'm still edging towards Michigan. Only because a Corum, Michigan's defense is tough. But we'll see. I haven't made my decision yet. We still got time. I want to see them both play. The Buckeyes play the Terrapins this week, and Michigan plays Illinois. We'll see how J.J. McCarthy does against a very tough Illinois secondary. That'll give us another glimpse. Is J.J. McCarthy ready to take Michigan to the shoe and win the Big Ten East for the second year in a row for Michigan? We shall see. And another question on that, what happens to McNamara during the offseason? Quarterback in Michigan who led the Wolverines to the Big Ten title last year. Does he go in the transfer portal? And if he goes in the transfer portal, where will he go? What do you think? Put down in the comment section. What do you think? Where would McNamara go? He might go to Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman might need to elevate that quarterback play just a touch. Might need another year before he brings in his high school recruits in. Don't know about Buckner. He can't seem to stay healthy. Don't know about Drew Pine. He's been playing pretty good lately, but he's got a very low ceiling, Drew Pine. So McNamara's got a higher ceiling. Does McNamara go to the Irish in the transfer portal? I think that's something we all got to be watching. Transfer portal is going to be crazy. Crazy. You see how effective sometimes the transfer portal can be. You look at Oregon, getting Bo Nix in there. My Bucky Irving, my Gopher. Look how it's elevated Oregon. There's a lot of other examples throughout the country. Bob Dolan. If Michigan wins, it's the only way there's two Big Ten teams in the college football playoffs. So what, Bobby, what you're saying is if Ohio State wins, Michigan won't get that fourth spot. You're probably right. You're probably right. I think there's a chance, obviously, for both teams to get in there. Especially if TCU, gets tripped up. If TCU loses to Kansas State in the Big 12 championship game, that might give Michigan a pathway to get in there if they lose to Ohio State. And again, it determines on how competitive that football game is, right, between Michigan and Ohio State. If it's a blowout one way or the other, the team that loses probably ain't going to get to the 14 playoffs. But if it's highly competitive, goes down to the wire, I think there's a pathway. Mo and Vision. I don't know, Bob, if TCU is still standing and Tennessee wins out, but I can't see them letting in two Big Ten teams. And Tennessee probably will win out, and Tennessee won't be playing in the SEC championship game. So, if TCU loses, you can see that two Big Ten teams making it. You can see that pathway. But Tennessee is also another problem for like a one-loss Michigan to get to the playoffs. And let's be honest, USC, if they become the Pac-12 champion with one loss, it'd be very hard to put Michigan in front of USC, in my opinion. USC has not been winning impressively. Their defense is not ready to, USC is not ready to challenge for a national championship. Their defense is not ready yet under Lincoln Riley. It's going to take a couple years. We shall see. BC. Chadwell has hit the areas West Virginia needs to hit as a recruiter for a long time. Another great point by BC. Another great point. Chadwell does recruit in the same area. And I know, and we've reported this, we've showed an article episodes ago, but Jamie Chadwell's family, I want to say family, I don't want to just say the wife, but it might have been the wife, said that they don't want Jamie Chadwell to coach outside of the South. I know I read that report at some point. So is West Virginia considered the South? Is that close enough for Chadwell's family? That's something else you got to think about. A lot of that stuff, a lot of these coaches' decisions on where they're going to go next is largely dependent on where their family feels comfortable in going. I know I saw a report that there's a Nebraska beat writer believes that Mark Stoops, the head football coach of Kentucky, would be very interested in Nebraska job. Now, I've been saying for months that I didn't think Mark Stoops would be interested, that an SEC coach isn't going to leave to go to a Big Ten coach job, unless for some reason the Ohio State job opens up, Michigan. But I didn't think Mark Stoops was a candidate. But a beat writer said that he had heard that, unfortunately, Mark Stoops divorced his wife. His wife has the two sons in Colorado, in Denver. And they're at a young age, so that maybe Mark Stoops would be interested in being able to be closer to his family, to his kids. And maybe he would take that Nebraska job. If he was targeted, if he was interested. I'm just bringing that as an example up of where these coaches go. Is a lot of times it's largely dependent on where the family feels interested or where they feel comfortable in going. Bob Dolan, Michigan will be punished for the non-con schedule if it comes to it. Not only the non-con schedule, but Michigan only had 20 non-con, or they had 4 away games, 8 home games, which is ridiculous. Matt Higgins, 1 loss, North Carolina. Yes, Drake May, North Carolina. If they can win out the rest of their games, beat Clemson, the ACC championship game, they could be right there. They're also another team that could slide on in. Bob Dolan is saying Tennessee is basically in. A 1-loss SEC team. Their only loss was to Georgia, the number 1 team in the country. Tennessee defeated Alabama. You very well could be right, Bob. Again, that's another team that's going to be hard to dislodge in that top 4. There's going to be a loser. Someone's going to lose that game, Buckeyes, Wolverines. And Tennessee could be that 4th team once that game happens, the Buckeyes and the Wolverines. Sean, keep an eye on USC as the number 4 over Tennessee and over the Ohio State, Michigan loser. It could be because being a conference champion is supposed to carry a lot of weight with the playoff selection committee, right? We have been told this for years. But we shall see. USC's got a lot of not very impressive wins. More than a couple. We'll see about that. Going to be very interesting. Those 3 spots, Georgia, the winner of the Buckeye-Wolverine game, and TCU, if they win out, those 3 are solidified. If those teams do what they're supposed to do. It's that 4th spot. That 4th spot is up for grabs. Mo and Vision, if the conference playoffs ends up with 2 Big Ten teams and 2 SEC teams, it certainly makes a compelling case for uneven revenue distribution in the college football playoffs. Again, is it going to be the part that we're looking for when it comes to once they figure this out is how much of it's going to be based on performance, the distribution revenue, and how much is it going to be based on how many teams do you have in your conference? What's going to be the flat fee for each? Because every conference is going to get a certain amount of money, regardless if they have no teams in the conference football playoffs or 4 teams in the conference football playoffs. Every conference is going to get handed a check. All Power 5 conferences, all 5G5 conferences, and Notre Dame. They're all going to get a check. Is that check regardless of the performance, is that check going to be the same for each of the Power Five like it is now, and the same among all the G5 conferences like it is now? Or is that check, not based on any performance, is that check going to be determined about how many schools you have in your conference? That's the big question. And then how much? Then the performance pay after gets laid on top of that, because that's going to affect pretty much all these decisions. Whether the Pac-12 invites San Diego State, whether the Pac-12 invites San Diego State +1, would the Pac-12 get more money in the college football playoff distribution, that flat fee that everyone's going to get if they have 12 schools rather than 10 schools? So many different ways this thing could go. And that's the big domino that has to fall before we find out. Sean, USC will have a 1-point loss on the road against a top 15 school in the conference championship. Sean, again, if USC wins out, victories over UCLA, Notre Dame, and either Oregon and Utah in the Pac-12 championship, all would be quality wins. Sean brings up a very good point. A very good point. I wish I had written down USC's schedule here because they've had some close wins against not very good teams. They've given up a lot of points to not so very good teams. That would be the negative aspect to USC's resume. But you're right. If they can beat Notre Dame and then they beat Oregon or Utah in the Pac-12 championship game, that's a pretty good resume. That's a pretty good resume. They're going to need help. They're going to need help. All right, so that does it. That's our hour live show, Aftermath, Week 11. Thank you for joining us so much. Please, before you leave, smash that like button if you like our content, and share the video with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel. We're going to be doing a live show Tuesday night. That's why we're cutting this off from an hour, because Tuesday night, the new rankings come. We might have more information on UCLA and a whole bunch of other stuff going behind the scenes. So please join us for Tuesday night. I think it's going to be at 6 o'clock again. I'm going to have to check the schedule of when that new rankings come out. But Tuesday night, come join us again. Until next time, from all of us at Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take care of each other. Thank you so very much.